Our next speaker is Mr. Kishore Iyer. He is going to take a session on qualitative aspects of annual report reading. This is the last session for the day. Mr. Kishore has over 15 years of experience in investment research and asset management, currently managing the equity book at Chola MS along with the CIO. He focuses on bottom-up stock picking and believes in running concentrated portfolios to maximize returns. He is an MBA, cleared the level 2 of CFA program and working towards earning a charter. He is a frequent speaker at TIA. Well, over to you, Kishore.
So after the three wonderful presentations that were given, it will be a tough act to follow, especially after what Balaji has done. So great presentation, by the way, Balaji, wherever you are. So yeah, what I am going to present will be slightly abstract. The qualitative aspects. I mean, quantitative aspects, the sessions so whatever I'm going to talk over here would be more, what is it that you should look out for in an annual report on a qualitative basis, right? So you have income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, and all of that, and then notes to accounts and all of that. But there are other sections in the annual report where there is some information which is disclosed, but usually ignored. Because straight away, either we go to the valuation of the company, looking at PE ratios, or let's say right now we look at how much the stock has fallen from the 52-week high. So, nariya bottom fishing, nariya pannuvom, but very few of us actually read the annual reports. Okay, just a show of hands. How many of us actually read the annual report diligently? Okay, that's okay. Not fully, okay, sorry. Okay, nice. So, why don't we actually read the annual report? Just out of curiosity, right? Yeah, okay. The first complaint that we have is like about 50 to 100 pages. I mean, even the smallest of companies will have 50 to 100 pages. I mean, if you look at Reliance annual report and all of that, it will run to 200 and 300 pages. And the annual report thickness obviously we have an aversion towards reading. And now that the technology is actually grown, ChatGPT simple. FY24 annual report of this company and a summary right? But that's where the problem lies, right? So summary it's more like getting the movie review of a movie without watching the movie. You get what I'm saying, right? So movie review it's someone else's opinion. Obviously, ChatGPT also gives its own opinion, right? I mean, it's a compilation. But you wouldn't understand what the management is looking to communicate with you. So, if you remember the previous, one of my previous colleagues discussed about. I'll try to tie into most of the concepts that were discussed earlier. All right, how the narrative in the annual report actually relates into ties into the quantitative aspects. Previous, when Balaji was actually talking, he spoke about the cost of capital and the discount rates and all of that, and the confidence that you will have, on the management to put your money. So how do you actually get that confidence? I mean, it comes with the management's frequent interaction with the shareholders, right? So this is one of the very important documents that you have to read. And given that now you have Mr. T going on a rampage on Twitter and all other social media, you have enough distractions. So you might want to, let's say, cut down on the noise and focus on accumulating knowledge, right? So investing is all about accumulating knowledge. All knowledge is compounding. in the sense that the more knowledge you actually accumulate, so it works like a exponential curve. So reading an annual report actually helps you in that. So I am not going to say you'll have to, let's say, increase your reading speed and things like that. What I would really stress is, at least even if you're able to spend 30 minutes every day, or let's say every other day reading an annual report, you should be doing. I mean, that is something that I diligently try to do, but let's say, I mean, in a week, I'll perhaps spend 2 days reading an annual report all around. And that too will be more of a glancing. But I'm looking to do it more frequently, right? Okay, disclaimer. I'll just read it out so that all views expressed here are personal and do not reflect that of my employer. I think the others are self-explanatory. So, the big why. So, the main thing that they can't mandate in annual reports that I really like to have is, I like to know as much as I can about the person that's running it, and how they think about the business and what's going on in the business. In other words, I would like to have the report that would be identical to what if I owned half the company but was away for a year and I had a partner who owned the other half when I came back. So essentially what he's trying to tell you is that, does my thought process and the promoter's thought process actually match? So that is what your annual report actually conveys. See, one of the main reasons why we do not require annual reports nowadays is because you have enough number of communication that the company does on a quarterly basis, on a periodic basis. Right? You have the quarterly filings, you have the regulatory filings that happen, the shareholder holdings, everything. And you're bombarded with a lot of information. And by the time the annual report of any company comes out, it's almost, I think, September, 2 quarters are done. And we don't have the patience to go back and the whatever information that is there is stale. But the fourth point is very, very important. Right? You have enough sell-side reports bringing out research, giving you the perspective of what they think the company is worth, or what they think the company should actually do. But very seldom do we actually spend time trying to listen to what the management wants to communicate. We discount a lot of things by saying that, okay, why would the management actually try to give you a reality check? The management will give you a rosy picture of what the business is. But the more you actually read the reports, you will be able to understand that the management is trying to communicate a lot of things between the lines. It's not always that the management is looking to paint a rosy picture. It doesn't happen that way. Because if the entire market is bleeding, or let's say, we are undergoing a bear market in a particular industry, there can't be a management which actually comes out and says that I will be growing at 15% this year. It won't sound good. So it's very important to understand the management's perspective. So the last point has actually changed the game a lot. So the AI generating a lot of summaries. In fact, I myself use a lot of AI tools to generate summaries of annual reports and try to get a perspective of what the company is actually doing. But to tell you the truth, that doesn't suffice. Again. So, the reasons why you should be reading annual reports. It's a regulatory filing and it actually gives you accurate information. Until and unless the company wants to, let's say, misrepresent facts, which has always happened. Nadakalan solla mudiyadhu. But in all probability, let's say 95% of the times, companies actually give you the right data. All right. There could be errors here and there, but you should be. I mean, if that amount of trust is actually not there in the company or in the market, you shouldn't be investing at all. So that's the whole idea, right? The second point is another very important one. Every annual report has a theme. How many of you have actually seen the front page of any annual reports? So each of those annual reports will have a word. We'll be discussing that as well. So, but there'll be one word which actually captures the essence of the entire report, 300 pages. So, for example, Narayana Hridayalaya has a theme called as metamorphosis for FY24. So the reason why it's called metamorphosis is because it's actually the chairman and the company is actually imagining a certain pathway for itself to move into the future. So each annual report will have a theme, and identifying that theme is very, very important because it helps you tune your mind to reading that theme and discovering it and reading between the lines when you're exploring the annual report, right? So gives you an insider's perspective from the people who run the business. This is very important. As an analyst, the way I look at business will be very, very different from the way someone who's running the business actually looks at. Because it's in the company illana innoru 10 company irukku invest panna. Let's say the person who's actually running the company, that's his bread and butter. He doesn't have anything else to do. And if that person is really sincere, he would actually tell you the truth. And the only way in which he can communicate in a very structured and usually quarterly presentations are very rushed. And other communications are very rushed and, let's say, massaged and all that. Even this is massaged. I'm not saying it's not. But in the annual report is more structured. Right? You'll have a nice perspective, facts, numbers and narratives and all of that. Again, we must be smart enough to actually separate the facts from opinions and fiction. That is also very, very important. All right. The penultimate point. DRHP and annual reports are the two places where you could learn a lot about a company that you're looking at for the first time. I don't think there is any other place. Yeah, you can look at articles and you can look at perhaps industry reports and all of that. But if you would want, let's say, the first-hand perspective of any company, the only two places where you can actually look at is the DRHP, if the company is going to get listed. And the second one is the annual report. Gives you a very fresh perspective. Finally, gives the management's outlook about the industry and for the company for the next year. That is another thing that the annual report actually does. So, the table of contents. Is this visible? Yeah. So the first section is the corporate overview. These are two table of contents. One on the right hand side is from Narayana Hridayalaya and the left is from Triveni Engineering. Triveni Turbine. So Each one will be pretty similar. There wouldn't be a lot of difference. Essentially, it'll have the corporate profile, the chairman's letter, the CEO's letter, the management discussion analysis, board report. Then you have the financial statements, and then you have the notes to accounts and footnotes and schedules. That's all. So where should you focus? All of us are actually strapped for time. We don't have enough time to read 300 pages. Again, 300 pages la vandu ungalku substance nu paaka poningna at the max will be 50 pages. That's all. The trick is to identify those 50 pages. Correct. So what I find is that it takes a long time to read the annual report, even if it's a comparatively simple business. Yeah, you pick any simple business. Even the simplest, even HUL, which actually sells FMCG products. Actually speaking, FMCG is a very complex business. The product that they sell is simple. But actually speaking, FMCG is a very complex business. So, even that annual report actually runs 2 pages. I think HUL annual report would run to at least 350 pages. Given that it's got over 20 to 30 pages, when the brands you'll have all the actor, actresses, brands, and all of that. So in fact, it's a lot easier to read the industrial companies or annual reports. Maximum nut to bolt no distracting. So this is what you should be focusing on, right? Corporate overview, chairman's message. And this is what we will be focusing on even over here today. We won't be looking at I'll touch upon numbers a little bit here and there, but on an overall basis, I will be looking at only the qualitative portions. Be very abstract, so please stay with me. So, the company snapshot. So, this is Triveni Turbines. The company snapshot. So, this is very important, right? See, in a way, the annual report is actually a method of marketing your company as well. Let's say 30 years ago, when you didn't have this technology, and you had physical annual reports delivered to all the shareholders. This was in a way to market your company as well. I mean, you didn't have this many number of touch points. So all you had to do was, if you had to read about the company, the only way you can do is read the annual. In a way, it actually cuts out a lot of noise as well. So, gives you top 2 globally, especially that in its addressable market. So Triveni Turbines actually operates in a smaller turbine market. It doesn't operate in the usually in this company operates in a market where you have companies that want to put up cogen plants and all of that. They have a main manufacturing unit, but they want to put up a secondary power generating unit. They use this turbine. So it is second globally in the addressable market. Very important. Because the next question that you should be asking yourself is, who's the first guy? And what is the addressable market? So that's where the curiosity actually starts. So one of the leading manufacturers of decentralized steam-based renewable turbines globally. The next one, 16 plus gigawatts of combined power generation capacity. All these are anecdotes. In less than 100, a strong presence in high efficiency turbines in the less than 100 megawatt segment. So these are all factoids. See, the reason why this is important is because, like I said, you would be going back to you'll actually be going back to Google trying to understand who are the other major players if you're serious about investing in this company. Sorry. So the second portion of the exhibit is your revenues, the numbers. So 1,600 crores of revenues, 381 crores of EBITDA. You have cash and investments, all of this. Here is a company which generates a good ROCE of 41.5%. That's pretty huge for a capital goods company. So these are the factoids that actually help you size up the industry and the company. These are exactly not quantitative in nature. It's more a mixture of both quantity as well as quality. If you look at the final column, you have the order book. So this, in a way, this actually gives you the order book actually gives you the idea of what the private capex is looking like. This is not, the governments do not put up, let's say, turbines for less than 100 megawatts. So you have smaller turbines that are put up only by industries, private industries. So this actually gives you an idea of what the private capex is like. So a lot of the data that you actually pick up from the annual report helps you connect, if you assimilate, it helps you connect with a lot of information which is discussed elsewhere. So again, this is the FY23 exhibit. Similar sort of revenues. And on the right hand side, you have the key growth drivers. Energy transition, innovation, technological. But basically, this is the factoid that we are talking about. So, moving to a company like Titan. So, a company like Titan, it's very easy because everyone knows what are the brands that come under Titan's umbrella. You have, so it gives you an idea of what the different segments are in which Titan actually operates. You don't have this issue with, let's say, an industrial company or let's say any other company. But over here, very important to understand what are the segments in which Titan actually operates. Snapshot, right? So you have the jewelry, watches, eye care, fragrances and fashion, Indian dress wear, and then you have the market segmentation. Have luxury, premium, mid-market and mass market, and then the other licensed brands. And on the left-hand side, it actually gives you the numbers. Market cap of 3.3 lakh crores, sales of 47,000 crores, all that. So, it's a snapshot. See, I'm sure all of this will be available in the quarterly presentations that the company actually gives you. But if you're looking at the annual report for the first time, or let's say the company for the first time, this helps. So, the second focus area, the theme. Any guesses who Robert Weiss is? Why? Yeah, he's a wise man. Robert Weiss is the guy who directed Sound of Music. He's a director. Sound of Music, and then he directed a couple of, Star Trek movies, and then a couple of, I think he directed a Bond movie as well. So that's why he talks about the narrative and the theme. You can't tell any kind of story without having some kind of a theme, something to say between the lines. Communication is very important and you need to have a theme. So if you identify the theme of the annual report, it's that much more easier to decode. So think of it as a novel. or a comic book. If novel is too heavy for you, then yeah, think of it as a comic book. You got enough images to. So all annual reports have the central theme. So identifying a theme is important because it prepares your mind. Again, more like solving a reading comprehension passage when you're taking up your CAT or GMAT or whatever. So you need to just prepare your mind for what you're going to expect. Essentially anticipate. See, most of the reading that you do is anticipation only. Usually the chairman's letter, the CEO's letter and the MD&A will follow the theme. All these three will actually follow the theme. There's no other, they won't be all over the place. It'll be very focused, they'll follow the theme and they'll stick to it. So, I'm just another set of exhibits of the annual report which actually gives you the theme. So, this is FY24 annual report of Narayana Hridayalaya, right? So, it says metamorphosis. So, this is where the company is actually looking to, the hospital is looking to become a integrated player in the healthcare industry. So, they want to be, let's say, they've started an insurance company, they run hospitals. So, they want to make sure that they insure the patients and offer preventive care. In a way, they actually make money on the insurance business as well. That is the new investments that they've made. And only at, let's say, extreme situations, they'll have to pay out of pocket for, let's say, treatments or any sort of procedure. So, and they have let's say, IT applications, hospital applications that they lend out. So, that's your metamorphosis from just a pure play hospital to a full umbrella player. So, redefine was when they spoke about, this is the FY23 annual report. So, the redefine portion, the redefine was because they wanted to talk about how, let's say, technology is transforming the healthcare space. And how would you actually operate your hospitals on top of the technology, right? So, that's how the second one. The FY22 was reflection. FY22 reflection and rebuild was pretty much the same. Okay, there is another catch over here as well. If you read enough number of annual reports, you'll actually understand that the chairman or let's say the CEO is repeating a lot of things. If you look at the reflection chairman's message and the rebuilds chairman message, this is FY22 and that's FY21. Both of them will actually talk about how Devi Shetty was very surprised that 35 years ago when he was working in Calcutta, the surgery, the heart surgery, the cost was actually 1.5 lakhs. And 35 years to date, the cost hasn't increased. So it talks about the increase in, the technological advancements. And we've reached a point where the cost of heart surgery cannot go below 1.5 lakhs. So that's where the reflection and rebuild comes into the picture. So each one of it has a theme. So even promoters and let's say chairmen, they get a bit lazy and then they start regurgitating the same message as well. Incidentally, there was one, I forget the name of the mid-cap company that I that I've actually read about. It's a auto ancillary company. So I actually read the FY10 to FY17 annual reports. All of them had the same management discussion and analysis, copy pasted. So it was a mid-cap company. So they didn't even change a single word of it. If I get a chance, I'll actually forward it to the group. But it was very funny, actually. So those are the things that you'll have to watch out for. The company did not perform, by the way. So, but over here, there is a theme. The management is trying to communicate something. So, Triveni, it's imagine, innovate, and inspire. Strong execution, sustainable growth. So, this was FY22. That was when the ESG and all of that was a big thing. And that was able, adaptable, agile. So, these two spoke about the let's say the ESG, the environment, the green theme, and all of that. Okay, so how these guys were actually fitting into the whole thing. So just going back to Narayana Hridayalaya, right? So this is the FY23 con call and Q1 FY23 con call and then Q1 FY24 con call. I'll just read these small bits. Again, like I told you, I mean, it's qualitative, so please stay with me. So if you look at the first, this one, it says, since our planned capital outlay for India and Cayman is still running behind schedule due to external factors. So that was the issue that they were actually facing in Q1. 4 quarters, fast forward, the newly commissioned radiation oncology block in Kamana Bay Hospital has seen good traction. And in its first quarter and is on track to meaningfully contribute to our growth in the future. So that's where the metamorphosis has actually happened. The redefinition, the metamorphosis, all of that has actually happened. So you can connect back to whatever the company's gone through in the 4 quarters by reading the annual report along with the con call transcripts, or let's say the company's communication. See, all of this might not matter too much in a secular bull run. Like, let's say, 7 months ago. 7 months ago, and then before that, another 12 months. So, let's say, since, for the last 30 months, we've been having between 30 to, let's say, the last 7 months, we were having a good secular bull run, right? But, எப்போ இதெல்லாம் வந்து become more important is when during times like this, because you buy a stock today, tomorrow, the next week or let's say the next month, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to stay there. We all grow restless. Even I grow restless. But that's the only way in which you can actually distract yourself is by reading more about the company itself, because all of this is knowledge. See, I remember a very famous investor who actually told me he had read about an industry in 2013 and he hadn't invested in it for almost 7-8 years. Whatever he had read in 2013, he was able to use in 2019 when he invested. So that's how this works. So investment, see, returns is actually a byproduct of a lot of things. And one of the main things is knowledge. Returns is actually not generated by looking at valuations or let's say how the stock has fallen and things like that. Returns are generated only by accumulating knowledge. And one of the ways to do it is by reading the annual report. So, the theme. Can you guess what this actually meant? Transforming FY24, Kotak Bank. Can anyone guess? What actually made the management come up with this theme? Yeah, but why? How? Exactly. Management change. Uday Kotak had actually left and it was the new chairman. So that's it, transforming for scale. So if you look at it, I'm humbled and grateful that I've been chosen to lead our company into the next phase of growth. See, there's a lot of, circumspect statements in here. It's not as authoritative as what Uday Kotak used to write. This actually reflected in the share price as well. For the last 5 years, I don't think Kotak Bank did anything at all. It was circumspect. Stock didn't go anywhere. Obviously, அதுக்கு முன்னாடி perform பண்ணிட்டு, but you get what I'm saying, right? It's the theme. Whatever the stock is, I mean, the company is actually facing. Yeah. Yeah. It could be a contradiction. You're right. So that's the whole point, right? See, if you actually go through the previous annual reports and this is FY24. If you go through the previous 2 annual reports, you could get the idea for why this statement was actually given. So, equally important by transforming, it's not for scale, but for the sake of size. Scale for relevance and not just size. So, what he's trying to communicate is perhaps growing your loan book is very easy because everyone wants money. But you have to make sure that your growth comes with quality assets, and there is no NPS. That's what he's meaning. All right? So, where is this theme actually discussed in detail? The chairman's letter. So generally the chairman's letter sets the tone. It's more like the vision for this year and what the company wants to achieve in the future as well. It's got very little quantitative information, very little interpretation of, let's say, numbers. More talks about the strategic vision that the chairman has for the company. So, presents the management's priority and leadership style. What are the strategies that are being employed to achieve? So, usually, the chairman is usually the non-operating personnel of any company, right? So it's the CEO who actually executes it, CEO or CXO or the key management personnel. So they are the ones who would implement the vision of the chairman. So the chairman will just give you a broad overview. Vision, yeah. So, this is the summary, at least the snapshot of what the chairman wanted to convey, right? About 15% of heart surgeries done in India are done by our group, Narayana Hridayalaya. 15%. So that's, let's say, 30 million surgeries are done every year, and then out of which, let's say, 15 to 20% would be heart surgeries. Out of that, 15% is done by Narayana. That's a big number. So appreciating the scale is very, very important. Because if you're talking about 30 million surgeries, you're talking about, let's say, 50,000 per surgery, minimum. 50,000 into 30 million is a big number. So every day we see more and more young people coming back to the hospital with preventable heart attack. When we become a health insurance company, we will work hard to prevent people from falling sick or developing a heart attack, because keeping people out of hospital is good for the health insurance business. So, he's tying into the health insurance business. Because if you look at the bigger umbrella, they have the hospitals, you have the health insurance business, and then you have the healthcare IT portion as well. So he wants to tie all three of it. Same thing. We go back to Triveni turbines. At Triveni turbines, our efforts over the years have been focused on the vision of promoting energy efficiency and sustainability through robust industrial steam turbine solutions globally. So that ties into your imagine, innovate, and inspire. Again, On a standalone basis, just reading this will not give you any sense. If you actually read a 2 or 3 annual reports and the chairman's message of the same company, it will give you the complete picture. Along with, if you actually read this along with the con call transcripts, it will give you a much better picture as well about the company. In fact, you'll see how the companies actually reacted to different scenarios in the market. Because now we have the time to do that. We are in the buy first, research later phase is over. Now research first and then buy later. That's the phase that we are in now. So read. So some more snippets from the chairman's letter. So I'll just read some important portions over here, right? So these are things that you would want to actually understand, or let's say keep in mind, because these are data points that would be useful to you when you're, let's say, let's say you're not looking at Narayana Hridayalaya, but you're actually looking at some other company as well, some other hospital. These data points would help you in relating to whatever that hospital's management is actually telling you as well. You can't look at any of these information in silos. So what we are talking about is universal healthcare using taxpayers' money. But the chairman is actually saying that it's not possible. So we recently analyzed developed countries and then that have implemented free universal healthcare. 3 things that these countries have in common. All of them are very small. So small countries, the implementation of universal healthcare is easier. Secondly, all these countries have very high tax to GDP ratio between 25 to 45%. So our tax to GDP ratio is 11.2%. Again, an economic tidbit. How many of us actually know this? Not many, right? So it'll take time for us to get to that 25 to 45% levels. Then, thirdly, all these countries already are spending between 10 to 18% of their GDP on healthcare, whereas our government spends 2.1%. Obviously, the state governments also spend, so both put together will be around 5 to 7%. That will be the spend on healthcare. But even then, it's nowhere close to, let's say, 10 to 18% of the GDP that the other countries do. So this is a tidbit that you would want to keep in mind. So the status of health insurance in India, the reason why he's actually talking about health insurance in India is because they already have a health insurance company and they want to see how this ties into the healthcare spending. This is very, very important, right? So this was something that we keep talking a lot in our company as well. Because the trust between the person who gets insured, the insurance company and the middleman is just not there. So on Twitter, I actually had read a thread where someone had actually posted that an health insurance company had engaged private detectives to check if the person was really sick when he's actually claiming for health insurance. So we're talking about lack of trust in the entire system. So that all these are things so whatever is happening over here, whatever he stated, is something that is already happening on the ground. You're getting a live example. So it's in India. It happened in India. So if you have a situation like this, so there is a bottleneck. And how will these industries actually grow? All right. So Three important stakeholders in the healthcare delivery, hospitals, health insurance companies, and patients. All three of them don't trust each other. As a matter of fact, I mean, there are enough YouTubers or let's say influencers who actually say that hospitals fleece money. I don't know if they fleece or not, but there are enough influencers who actually tell you that. There are enough people who actually tell you that health insurance or let's say generally insurance is actually a scam. Though to a large extent they are right, but you can't really brush the entire industry like that. So all of this tells you that there is there is an issue, addressable issue. And digitization hasn't solved that issue as well. All right. So then the chairman actually discusses about why the company became a health insurance company. So it is looking to prevent people from coming to the hospital itself so that they can make money, make profits on the. And then why your company built a hospital operating system. So this is very important. 70 million surgeries have to be performed in India in the future. A lot of it is not performed because of lack of awareness, fear, social stigma, all of that. So only 30 million are actually performed. That 70 million, the remaining 40 million, I mean, anything could happen. So that tells you the runway for growth that you have as a hospital. I mean, though it's not a great thing to have because you would need a healthy population, but still addresses the larger issue. Here it talks about the nurses. So it says in the US you have 4 to 5 nurses for each doctor. India has got only 1.8 nurses. So the demand for nurses is a lot. So that's almost like twice or 3 times. So being a nurse is actually a good career, perhaps. Yeah. Shortage of nurses in India is due to shortage of nursing colleges itself. So if you have enough money, start a nursing college. So there are only 110,000 undergrad medical seats, 263 seats available to train nurses. So this is an issue. We have shortages everywhere. So all these have to be plugged. So which essentially tells you that the runway for growth for this company is very long, very, very long. See, even if you say that, okay, you discount 50% of whatever he's saying, it's still big. Even if you're saying that, okay, apart from, it's not 70 million surgeries, even if you say it's 50 million surgeries, it's still big. We've not touched that number yet. So, then the next one is, there are over 100 nurses, most of whom are trained by us, working in the hospital in Cayman Islands, which is very close to the US. Each one of them is remitting home at least 1 lakh a month. And these nurses are only 23 to 25 years old. So seems like a lucrative career. Someone comes to you for career advice, perhaps you can actually tell them this is why, if they're interested. So if someone doesn't want to be let's say engineer or a commerce graduate or anything like that, I mean, perhaps, yeah, who knows? I mean, if you're able to remit 1 lakh per month, I mean, when you're 23 to 25 years, I mean, it's a good proposition, right? So finally, you have the summary, right? We believe that the current model of delivering healthcare must change, and we want to change. We want to be the change agents. So ties back into the metamorphosis of what the company was actually. That's the central theme. Everything that we have achieved so far would not have been possible without your support and blessings. So that's the formal. Third focus area, the CEO's letter. So, to summarize the chairman's letter, it will be more vision, broad tidbits, factoids here and there. That will be very helpful. Helps you in, let's say, connect a lot of other narratives. And then finally, the thank you, and then you have the CEO's letter. CEO is the operation guy. If you look at it, I mean, we had a conversation with one of our peers, and then the discussion was like, why is it that I mean, our companies, I mean, your company is actually not increasing your exposure to the equities. I mean, the reply from the other guy was like, I mean, our promoters are not ready to pump in money just in case if equities actually go down. Because as an insurance company, you wouldn't want to run risk on both the sides of your balance sheet, right? So the promoter is not ready. That's the vision of the promoter. The guy, the operating guy is saying, okay, so I'll have to actually run risk only to a certain extent. So I reduce the risk and the operating guy. So I'll have to make sure that my operations are in line with what the promoter is actually wishing. Promoter or the chairman in this case. So the CEO's letter will be more quantitative. More quantitative, talks about performance of the company over the last fiscal, growth investments that would be made. That's very important. So your CEO's letter will actually tells you about the growth areas that the CEO is actually looking at that will deliver that extra alpha, perhaps. Usually, chairman would letter chairman will be like, okay, this is the issue that we have identified, this is the vision that we have, and we are looking to solve this. CEO will be like, okay, this is what happened last year. This year, this is what is, I mean, going forward, this is what we will be doing, and this is the guidance that we are giving. Generally, what are the challenges and opportunities? So again, the reason why I've taken Narayana Hridayalaya is to be as consistent as possible. I mean, I could have taken some 3 or 4 companies, but I would have been all over the place. All right. So consider this as a session where we are looking at Narayana Hridayalaya, let's say extensively. Again, this is not an investment recommendation. All right. So looking ahead to fiscal FY25, our cardiac program anticipates substantial growth in both procedural volume and revenue, reflecting increasing demand for specialized cardiac services. So what does this actually mean? Specialized cardiac services would mean higher revenues and higher margins. So that is where your Narayana Hridayalaya, the revenue from cardiac segment is almost 35%, 32-33%. And if they are looking to increase the volumes on specialized cardiac services and all that, you would see that your revenue will grow along with increased margins. All right, so the CEO is actually giving you an idea. Then he talks about the Cayman business. So for the last 3 or 4 years, this has been the talking point of this company, the Cayman Islands, the hospital over there. So the Cayman business demonstrated robust performance in fiscal, generating revenue of 124 million, reflecting year-on-year growth of 12.9%. Again, talks about radio oncology block, which came into operation. So this expansion should help us to further strengthen our foothold in the Caribbean market. So that is the place where they are expanding. So they would want to grow the business outside. If you look at the second portion, you'll see that the consolidated revenue of 5,000 crores with a growth of close to 11%, EBITDA of 1,200 crores. That's pretty good for a hospital. So, as a matter of fact, I mean, Narayana is the hospital which actually generates the highest ROC versus all other hospitals. Even though the revenue per bed is actually lesser, or let's say in the mid range, Max is the highest. Then you have Apollo, and then you have other companies, and then you have Narayana, right? Even though it's at the mid range, it's able to generate the highest ROC. So as a part of growth strategy, so this is the growth that we are talking about. 2,000 crores is what they're looking to invest over the last, they've actually invested over the last 3 years, and then 900 crores is what they've invested last year. And they're looking to invest more. Close to 5,000 crores is what they're looking to invest over the next 5 years. So the CEO actually gives you the vision of how he's going to, let's say the strategy of how he's going to achieve this.